Hello, I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator, and today my guest is Fred Gillen, who is from More Marketing Ideas. Welcome, Fred, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Faye. Appreciate the opportunity.
Now, Fred, what we're going to be talking about today are your superpowers. But first, what we want to know is a little bit of your backstory, where you come from, the experiences you've had, and how it's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Well, my background is I was born in Dublin, in Ireland, and I grew up there, and I became did an electrical apprenticeship after school. Finished that apprenticeship with one of the major electricity suppliers, so it was a little bit different in the way they did apprenticeships because it was a semi-state body. So I learned a lot in that. And when I finished the apprenticeship, I migrated out to Australia, because the Aussie government were paying for tradespeople to come out at the time, and it cost me £10 to come to Melbourne. And everybody wants to give me £10 to go back, but I'm not accepting it. Sorry. Right? So that was the start. Came out here, worked for a lot of companies for the first few years as an electrician, then started my own electrical contracting business. Ran that for a number of years. While that was running, my wife opened the milk bar. So we ran the electrical business and the milk bar at the same time. So milk bar is a general store in the suburb for people who don't know what a milk bar is. And we again ran that. That nearly sent us broke and nearly broke the marriage, but we got out of that okay. And then while working as an electrician, I started to get involved in the PC market, like computers, in the mid-'80s. And that developed into me opening a retail store, importing bits and pieces from Taiwan, assembling them here in Australia, branding them as my own computer, and selling them in competition with IBM. So that was a really good experience. Again, ran that for a number of years, and then the writing was on the wall because the Taiwanese came in directly and the margins dropped. I saw the writing on the wall, and there was no money in PCs anymore. So I got out of the market. I went taking both my electrical skills and my PC skills. I got into running small networkings for corporates. So we would set up, for example, an accountant might have 4 or 5 people in his office. So we would actually connect all those computers up. And that got me into that arena. And towards the end of my corporate life, I worked for a deployment area in the majors like Optus and the National Australia Bank, Human Services, Department of Environment, all of those people rolling out infrastructures on behalf of, in some cases, it was on behalf of Hewlett Packard. I worked for those. I worked for Compaq, worked for Digital, who ended up being owned by Compaq. So there was a big story there. But we worked for those and deployed lots of systems to various people. One of the last gigs I had was with Optus, where we rolled out all the telephony for ANZ nationally. So we ran out to all the branches. Had to do that after hours, which meant that our days were long because I wouldn't get home till 2 a.m. because we couldn't work while the branches were open, and we had to complete everything before just after the branch closed, and basically did all the cash out. So once they closed the safes and all the money was away, then our team would move in, and we'd put in all new phone systems, new computer systems in less than 6 hours, and then move out so the bank could open again. So, pretty efficient in the end. First few were, I won't say disastrous, but they were educational, the first few deployments, but then we got it nailed and we could roll out 6 sites a night. So it was pretty good.
The experience of when you started doing that and then doing a couple and really honing in on what actually needs to be done, doing 6 a night, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I managed one team. There were 6 other project managers as well, so we all had our own group to look after and deploy. And then there was obviously a team back in home base in Melbourne for Optus that managed all the infrastructure, connecting everything up and making sure everything worked. And then there was a follow-up the next day to make sure everything. So there was a lot of organizational things going on in the background to make sure the customer didn't see any of this, but sometimes we were running around with our heads chopped off, trying to get it done.
Yeah, good. So from that, where did you go?
Well, I finished up in corporate about 7 years ago, and I decided it was too early for me. So I decided, what could I do? So I decided to take that knowledge and all the skills, life skills, basically, and offer them to people. So I opened up a digital agency where we started out building websites, the normal digital agency stuff. So we would build websites for people. We'd help them set up their emails, set up their email campaigns. More recently, setting up their SMS campaigns so they could SMS people, and then the CRMs came into it, all that kind of stuff. So I started to move into that arena. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and I made a silly mistake of concentrating on the hospitality arena, which was restaurants, right? And you can imagine what happened during the COVID period. But that forced me into doing what we're doing today, which is, predominantly online marketing. So I run our own networking group that you're aware of. I do most of my communications online, do go out to a few networking meetings, but it's nothing like what we used to do before COVID. Right now, 90% of the stuff I do is online.
It's changed a lot, and I think it's given all businesses and entrepreneurs the flexibility to be able to do both and balance that depending on what they're doing and where they're situated. It's really important that they focus on what they do, but the skills that you actually have accumulated over the past years have brought you right where you are today. What do you think, or what do you know as your superpowers?
I think, like, one of the things, and I just realized while I was telling that brief story, is that I don't know what it is, but I seem to be able to see the writing on the wall before something happens. It's like when I decided to get out of the PC market. I could see that the margins were dropping and everything was happening, and I decided, well, it's time to pivot, right? And went into something totally aligned but totally different, if that makes sense. So taking some of the knowledge I had previously, and that's even the same today. 2 years ago, if somebody told me I'd be doing all my business online and chatting to people on Zoom and doing all that kind of stuff, I would have told them they had rocks in their head. I'm the guy that wants to go out and have a drink with people. I want to meet people. I want to, squeeze the flesh, all that kind of stuff. And a drink is very important because you've got to have something in your hand, and because you can squeeze the flesh with the other hand, so that's good. But yeah, I think that's one of them is
a bit of intuition.
A lot of intuition. Yeah, it's and we were speaking today about something about how do you know what emails to open, and sometimes it just happens. Well, no reasoning behind it. Just a light bulb goes on from somewhere, and you go, I'll read that one. Or and even with we all get invited to webinars and stuff all the time.
Always, yes.
And even with those, I'll go, no. And then all of a sudden I'll go, oh yeah, okay, I'm not doing much today. I'll listen to the background, I'll be working or whatever, right? And then suddenly you go, I've got to stop working. This guy's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know what got me to click that button and sign up for that webinar.
Is it just a feeling inside that you thought there's something there?
Yeah, there's something invited me to do it. So whether it's the universe or, God above or whatever, who knows? But something definitely forced. Like, it wasn't me going looking for something. It just popped up, and I go, yep. Whereas I might have ignored them the last couple of months.
And so I would say that you have a lot of technical knowledge because you were a Sparky. You had a shop. You had computers, you built computers, you did all those things. So the technical side of things, you would understand when something goes wrong with a computer or something goes wrong with whatever electrical, whatever it is, so you can fix that. So that's a huge skill. Do you use much of that with your clients?
When you say the electrical stuff, no, but when you look at any kind of an installation, whether it's electrical, whether it's fixing up a computer, whether it's assembling something or whatever, there's a logical process in that. right? So you've got to get the box first, you've got to get out of casing first, and you got to get the bits and you've got to put them in. So, but there's a logical process in assembling something. And it's the same with most of my clients. Like if you're starting out in business, there's a set of logical steps you have to take. If you're halfway through your business model, then there's different logical steps you would take, right? But there has to be a set of steps. You can't just throw everything into a bucket. It's like throwing everything into a filing cabinet and hoping you're going to pick out the right thing. They've all got to be in the folders, and then you look at the first one first and then progress through.
So it's systemization. Yeah.
And logical approach. Let's go through this step by step.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously you renowned for doing lots of research to find out what's new, what's old, what's coming up. And so you'd be ahead of the game a lot of the time, knowing what's in the pipeline further down the track. Why is it that you do that? What is it that makes you do that?
Well, that's the buzz I get out of it. Like, that's for me personally. Like, I like to know what's coming up. I like to know and particularly in the marketing space and the online space, I like to know what's happening. Like ChatGPT, I was probably one of the first people to look at it and take it and run a course on it. So we did that. That's a big buzz now, and everybody should know about it. I'm guessing everybody knows about it, but you still find a few that don't. But it's like stuff like that, with the avatars, they're available now as well, which are dangerous, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that and what kind of regulations go on that. To answer your question, I think it's just not getting bored with what I'm doing, but it's like when you know how to do something, you know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's probably ever learning, just wanting to be learning something all the time.
Okay. And also you mentioned off air that you are good at listening to people.
What'd you say?
God. You're good at listening to people, Fred. So please listen. You're good at listening and knowing what they're not saying, because they're explaining something to you, but they don't actually know what the real problem is. They can see a problem, they can't get to the next stage or level of whatever they're doing. And I'm talking from experiencing things. And you're listening and you can hear and say, well, you've got to go back to this step, or this needs to be done before you can go there.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's probably my teaching style, It's like I mentioned it again off air. I mentioned to you that years ago I used to be my way or the highway type of guy, right? Because I was a young guy, knew it all, learned all this stuff, and it was either my way or the highway. It was only when I got into corporate, and one of my mentors, who was my the director of the company at the time, but my direct manager, I don't think he deliberately mentored me, but he did in a fashion, and started to teach me that that's not really the best way, that you need people to teach themselves. Right? You can't teach people. They need to teach themselves, but you got to take them on that journey,
So guiding them and watching them and supporting them.
Rather than direction, it's like, yes, you could tell somebody how to go there, but you're better off if you are behind them and directing them in the right direction.
Yeah.
So rather than dragging them along, and then they don't remember how they got there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I can actually do some of that. I can put something together when I've been shown in the first instant, but when I go back to it to do something or make a change or add something to it, I will not remember the logical steps, because it's not what I want to know. I just want to see the end product. I want to see it working. I don't want to know all this other stuff. So you're the person that you'd ask, like the CRMs and things like that, which are an important part of business these days, because that's a system in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to, you've got lots of attitudes to learning as well. Like, some people just don't want to learn; they just want to get it done, so they would outsource it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like we've got the 3 models in our business. So we've got the done for you, which means just tell us what you want done, we get it done. done with you, which is similar to our arrangement. So we help you do something and show you how to do it, so you learn along the journey. And then there's a DIY where we just give you the info and
you just go away and do it.
with us, and you go away and do it.
Yeah.
Right? And there's and people will pick one of each of those models because it suits them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you see your future looking like, Fred?
Ever changing, because again, I don't know. Like people say, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? If somebody had asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said pretty much the same, going around talking to people, building websites, doing stuff, So yes, it's nice to have a goal and look out, but I don't look that far out. I never know. I guarantee you I won't be doing the same thing in 12 months' time that I'm doing today.
So forever changing.
Yeah, that'll be something, definitely. So there might be a component of what I'm doing today in there, but it won't be just like even in the last few weeks, stuff has changed. We introduced a CRM system, which we didn't do 6 months ago.
Yeah. Give some examples of some of the work that you've done.
In the marketing space, I suppose there's lots of things that we do, but we can show people how to create landing pages, right? And like I had a conversation with a client the other day, and they were talking about their websites and everything else, and we were saying, well, yeah, websites are great, and they are great. I'm not taking away from that, but the landscape has changed, right? Whereas before, you could put a website up and Google would index it, and you get seen within days. Now, because I'm not sure how many, but there's probably millions of websites getting created daily across the world. So it means then you're up against another million competitors, right? Tomorrow and the day after and whatever. So you really need to start looking at promoting your own business. And that's why I now promote landing pages, which are talking about one topic, one item, one thing, rather than a brochure site, which is what a website is. A website tells people all about you. But the only way people are going to find that today is if they already know about you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's getting people into a slightly different mindset. And I've done that with quite a number of clients over the last 6 months. Right. So we're actually changing the way they operate, changing the way they attract business, and, getting some reasonable success with it too. So.
And I think that landing pages are specific to what you're selling. So if you're running an event or something, you've got a landing page for that. You don't have to go into a website and sift through everything that's there to find exactly what you want. You've just got the information there. It's there in front of you. You can read it. You can do what you need to do with it, and off you go. And I see that as a great way to promote the components of someone's business.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see that there'll be lots more people doing landing pages in preference to doing websites, or will they transition from landing pages? Can you put those landing pages that they've done into a website?
Yeah, exactly that. You can, a website is really, like the standard website would usually be, 5 to 10 pages, where you've got an about us page, contact us page, a resource page, a products page, whatever it is, and the home page, right? And then people would go to the menu item and do it. But you'll notice that a lot of new current websites are what they call one-page websites.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's got the menu up the top, right, where it's got the contact us, you'll find that when you click on it, all it does is scroll down, right? So that, or scroll up, whichever way you want to look at it. So it doesn't actually go to a different page. It just stays on that one page, right? Now, a lot of that has got a lot of benefits, both for SEO, because you've got a lot more content on the front page,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people are clicking and they're going there, and it gets picked up as well. So that effectively is a landing page with multiple choices. Right?
So is it an awfully long landing page?
Depends on how many menu items you've got, doesn't it? And how many sections you've got on the page.
Right.
So if you think about it, you'll have if you've got a form on a page for contact us, then the menu item up the top, all it would do is when you click on that, it would push people down to that form straight away.
Right.
Rather than them having to scroll.
Right. Okay.
That's a single page website. unless you've got lots of products, e-commerce stores are different, because if you've got products, then that's totally different. Then yes, you want to drive people to the website. They got to multi-choices. They got to review your various products and whatever. But if you're a business coach or a life coach or a chiropractor or any other medical, if you're putting an offer up in an ad, a paid ad, particularly if you're paying for ads and you want somebody to book an appointment, then they should go to your appointment booking page, right? You shouldn't be going to a page all about you. If they want to do that, they can go back and look at that. But your ad should be driving them straight to yes, I want an appointment, book the appointment. Or yes, I want to know more. Well, get on a call. I'll tell you more. Whatever the operation is, or the mode of operation is, then that's what they should be doing. If somebody's searching for something with SEO today is a long tail game. You've got to do lots of work on it. The average small business owner doesn't have the time or energy.
What's an SEO for those people that don't know?
It's called search engine optimization, and what it's about is it's like the words tell it all. It's optimizing your website so the search engines love it.
Right, and how's it used? Is it words or is it images? What is it that?
It's a mixture of all of the above. It's actually, now it's all about relevance. So Google, if somebody is searching for, and I'll use the chiropractor as an example. If somebody is searching for a chiropractor in Canberra, right? Then the page that Google will display will talk about a chiropractor in Canberra. It won't talk about a chiropractor in Darwin or in Sydney, right? So the page has to be relevant. If somebody was looking for how to cure back pain, right? It may take him to the chiropractor's page, but the page would be talking about back pain and how to resolve it. It may not be talking about a chiropractor in Canberra, but there would be obviously some inference to the guy in there so that people can get in contact with him. But predominantly the content will be delivering what the person is looking for. Right. And that's what the website needs to do today. It needs to be relevant to the inquiry.
Right. And so when you're researching something, what's a good way? You could be really wordy and ask and not really get what you want. So what's your suggestions, because you're an expert on research? What's your suggestions on how to research something specific and to get to there without getting all this other stuff?
Copy something that's working.
Copy something that's working.
Yeah, look at your competitor.
Right.
But your successful competitor. Sorry, let me clarify that, right? So a competitor in your niche, in your industry, whatever it is, that's being successful, and see what they're doing. See what they've got on their website, right? Look at the articles they're writing. Look at how many pages they've got. Look at the ads they're running. All of that kind of stuff, right? So because if they're being successful, there's a reason for it. They've done all the research. They've done all the hard work. So that's stage one. And then you start doing some test and measure. So you put up do A/B testing. And A/B testing means you put up one page and half the people get that. You put up a second page, half the people get that. And then you look at your Google statistics to see how many people are coming to page one, how many people are coming to page two. If the majority coming to page two, then you swap out page one for another page. You don't delete it. You roll in another page with different content, and you keep doing that until you get the page that actually brings all the traffic.
Right. And so what do you do with the pages that you've sort of just pushed to the side?
Just regenerate. You don't use them again. Just regenerate. And you only change one or two things on the page. You don't change all the content. You might change the headline. You might change one image. You might change the image from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Minor stuff can make a ton of difference.
Right.
There's another one of our mentors was talking about a simple change to a website that gave them a 50% better hit rate. And what they did was up the top, and everybody should have their phone number up the top of the site, particularly for mobile. So when somebody looks at your site on mobile, the first thing they should do is a way of contacting you. The easiest way is your phone number. So that's relatively up the top. Right? But what this guy was saying was what they did was they had a phone number at the top of a website and just a phone number. They tested putting a symbol beside it of a telephone, right? And they got mediocre results. they tested putting the words "call me" beside the phone number, and it increased the reaction by 50%. Now,
So it's all about being specific in what you put there. And so you have to be aware of what you're promoting and how you're going to promote it. And
what you want people to do.
Yeah,
If
you've
you
got
want
to.
people to call you, ask them to call you. If you
Yeah.
want to fill in the form, ask them to fill in the form.
So
If you want
it's
to book an appointment, ask them to book the appointment.
yeah, have a call to action. Yeah. What else would you suggest? You know, Google's this big monster of a thing that can detect all sorts of things. So what else would you suggest as the more marketing ideas person? What would you suggest for people whom are just starting out and have no idea what Google is, or what a Google page is, or how you have a Google ad page, or what would you suggest?
Well, I think like with that, if you expect people to find you online, it's going to be pretty hard, as I said before. So you've got to be inviting people to see you online. And one of the easiest way of doing that is to get out and talk to people, whether that's by going to networking groups like BNI or Fresh or any of those out in the, in the public arena, like the normal meet and greet type networking groups, or online networking groups. So, you find people, and again, there's two ways of doing it. One is you can find people, you can find your customers, so go into those groups, wherever they might be, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or, Pinterest or whatever, find people, or Instagram, find people in those groups. And the other option is to go into where your peers are, your / competitors.
Yeah.
And go into those groups and, see what these guys are commenting about or what people are asking them. And then, build your own community and start communicating with people.
Yeah.
Because unless you tell people where you are, they're never going to find you.
No, that's true. So it's all about the wording, but you said be aware of your competitors. You don't have to worry about your competitors because you're unique in your own right, but you have to be aware of what your competitors are doing and how they're doing it, particularly if they're successful at it. So thinking about that, when you are a startup in business, what would you recommend for a startup in business?
Okay. When you talk about the competitors, the other one is that people that work in your area that are not your competitors, but serve your tribe, right?
Right. Okay.
So like you've got, accountants can work with bookkeepers. Motor mechanics can work with panel beaters. For me, like as a digital marketer, I don't do content and I don't do graphics. So I can work, and some graphic artists don't do the content and don't do the back end stuff. So you can always do, whether they're paid joint ventures or whether they're remunerated joint ventures, so you pay somebody if they get you a deal or whatever, or they can just be handshakes.
Excuse me.
I didn't mean to pass that on, but okay. Yeah, so it's really a matter of, having a look around, and don't be like, Faded. I run a networking group, and in that networking group, I heavily promote other networking groups because it's an abundant society, right? And one of the reasons for that is we all pinch other people's audiences.
I don't know whether we pinch them. I think we share them, and they have a choice whether they want to come or they don't want to. But having that awareness there so that they can have that option to hop in and learn something different or meet different people, or because the online arena now is so full of networking and events and all this stuff. I think, what would you suggest for people who are becoming overwhelmed with the shiny objects that are out there? Because
good question. I think like it's hard because I do it. I look at something and I'll go, yep, that looks good, I'll buy that, and then I don't use it. Right?
Yeah.
Do it. Like it, particularly if it's again in the creative space, like if it's got to do with creating websites or doing some smarts at the back end, some Chrome extensions and stuff like that. I'll have a look at them, like, oh, this looks cool, and I go and pay for it, and I go, shit, why'd I buy that?
Yeah.
Because I don't use it. So I think shiny objects, it's you just got to look at what's useful to you. If you're getting value out of it, okay. If you're not getting value out of it, then, and particularly if it's an ongoing subscription, give it 2 months. If you haven't used it in 2 months, cancel it.
Mm.
It's easy.
Yeah.
You can always go back.
Yeah, later on.
Yeah.
So, as the more marketing ideas person, Fred, what are 3 tips you would give to someone? How important is it that an individual knows what they're good at when they're starting up a business? Because, down the track, I mean, they might start up and do everything themselves to start with, but they have to realize at some stage when they're very overwhelmed that they need to bring other people in to support them, because we all need teams. We can't do it all on our own when we run a business. We can for a little while, but we can't do it always. So what would your tip be for them as far as being aware when they're starting up a business?
I think it's the opposite. I think it's working out what you're not good at, right, and what you don't want to be good at. Like, there's a big difference. Like you might see something that I'm not good at it, but I want to learn it because I'll enjoy doing it when I learn it, right? Other stuff. It's like, when you talk about starting up a business, some people like numbers, so they don't mind doing the bookkeeping. Other people hate it. So if you hate it, then get a bookkeeper, right? So I'd probably start listing off all the tasks you're doing on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever it is, how much time you're putting into it. And the thing is, like, people get, oh yeah, I can't afford somebody or whatever else. But if you look at it, you got to work out what your average hourly rate is, right? Like and if you're not earning it now, what you expect to earn and what you want to earn. And then you look at every time you're spending time doing that, you're not earning it. So doing something else, you're not earning that money. So if that, say for example, you wanted to earn $65 an hour or whatever it might be, and you're quibbling about paying a bookkeeper $40 an hour, well, there's no reason to do that. Like, if you weren't doing the bookkeeping, you could be earning $65 an hour. So why are you doing that?
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Fred. Your superpowers are amazing. And I know that you do support a lot of people in the areas that you work in, and they are moving forward and doing the things that they need to do and constantly learning. And they know that they can come back to you and ask you the questions if they're not sure about something. So thank you for your sharing. And I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator, and I'll be back again soon. Thanks, Fred.
All right, thanks, Faye.